Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a pretty entertaining email that was sent from a subscriber. This from a guy, sounds like he's in his early 40s. He is a veteran, in fact a combat veteran, as well as a former MMA fighter. In other words, he's a bad mother effer. And he shares his story about events that started about 18 years ago when he met his ex-girlfriend from those times. And just like a lot of the relationships, he thought that everything was amazing at first. But then eventually saw her true colors. The true colors is she was a nut job. And ultimately you're going to see how he kicks her to the curb and has the last laugh. However, along the way he makes a lot of mistakes that he now knows was very foolish. Things I talk about all the time. As well as you're going to see what happens when you get involved with a gal that gets into drugs and things like that, which you'll see. And the type of people she hangs out with and associates with. However, she makes a very foolish mistake of trying to get her drug dealing boyfriend, as well as some of his cronies, to come after a former combat veteran and MMA fighter, and what happens to them. That'll be a pretty good one to go over here, guys, just to show you another story where a guy comes out on top, and the a-hole gal, who he gave lots of chances to, his life is complete. Well, to put it simply, dog shit. And to show you guys where he went wrong, which I'm sure most of you guys will figure out as I tell the story, went right and he's doing well. So, definitely a good, entertaining one. And by the way, guys, I'm sure you noticed last week I only did a couple videos. I was visiting family for like 5 days in Pennsylvania. Had a great time, so now I'm back. And until mid-August, when I go to Florida and start looking at houses, I'll be doing regular shows from now going forward. So, I know you missed me, so it's good to be back. So, it starts off, he says here, hello SSM. I'm a big fan of yours, and as such, I wanted to tell you about my first of shitty relationship stories. Before I get into it, I want to say that a lot of people will likely call BS in some of the stuff I say, so I want to lead off with I am a former MMA fighter, and I'm also a veteran of the U.S. military, and served in both major theaters of the War of Terror. Well, brother, thank you for your service. And obviously, you're a bad mother effer. And that definitely comes to play later on in this story, which is quite entertaining. I can handle myself pretty well, and I am an aggressive and confrontational person by nature. I don't really have a fight or flight response. It's more of a fight and keep fighting response. This will come into play later in the story. Well, that's how you were trained. It's going to come natural to you. Anyway, for the purpose of the story, we can call my ex Lisa. I met Lisa in 2005 through friends, and we started chatting via MySpace, which was pretty popular back then. Good Lord, we're definitely going back in time. We decided to go out to dinner for our first date to an Irish pub that we both liked. And yes, I know I get a smack for taking her out to dinner for the first date, but we had met previously and there was already an attraction there. Well, you didn't know about this material back then. In fact, there was no YouTube in 2005, so you get a pass. But normally, gentlemen, ordinarily, first date, one drink. That's it. Things went pretty well on the first date. She was beautiful, blonde, conservative gal with big knockers and a winning smile. She struck me as intelligent and just generally pleasant to be around. After the date, we started seeing each other fairly regularly, and when we did jump into bed together, it was some of the best SCX I've ever had, and repeated. Well, given how I know this story goes, she's definitely, to match her hotness, she also has crazy, so therefore, to no surprise, in the sack, it was great. And that always ropes guys in. And to be perfectly honest, I can't say that I haven't fallen for that crap when I was younger, but I learned. I was in the military at the time, and when you're in the military, life events can happen very quickly, and they did. I got sent on a year-long mission only a few months into our new relationship. We had agreed to be exclusive before I left. Smack! You only knew her a few months, and you're already doing the long-distance relationship. I'm willing to bet you, if she wasn't as good looking, with a great body and amazing in the bedroom, you may have not gone for the whole long distance thing after knowing her for a few months. And you all know the stereotypes about relationships in the military when guys are deployed. Well, watch this. It says here, while on the mission, I didn't have time or inclination to step outside the relationship. However, I had some trust issues due to abandonment and betrayal in my past. A very good friend of mine at the time was a private investigator and agreed to keep an eye on her and spot check her activities for me in exchange for me helping him move just before I deployed. Well, you didn't know about the one drink rule, but you certainly were smart enough to have a guy who's a PI watch after her all the way back then. I lifted a lot of boxes that day, but also lifted the weight off my shoulders, so I don't need to worry about it while I was on my mission. He says, what? I'm paranoid. Too many stories about military girlfriends and spouses cheating on them, and I wasn't having any of that. I've done so many stories on here that guys from the military have written in. I'm sure you've heard about them. While on mission, I did get to come home twice, once on leave and once because there was a death in my family, and got to see her for 4 and 2 days, respectively, while I was at home. Both times I checked in with my PI friends, and he reported that he hadn't seen anything out of the ordinary from her, and it looked like she was being faithful. It wasn't like he didn't do what we agreed to either. He showed me a number of pictures from when she went out with friends, and there was never any guys around her. That's very hard to believe, that if she was going out with friends, and there weren't guys, at least, like say they were going to a bar. A young 20-something like her, blonde, big tits, pretty, all that, at least walking up and talking to them, the group, offering to buy them a drink, the usual, how things go. But okay. Even though I was overseas, we still communicated regularly via email. I had access to my military email account and would send her emails when I had time. She would always reply, and generally very quickly. I was never given any reason to think she wasn't faithful the entire time I was gone. She even sent me emails if I had been out of contact due to the needs of the mission for a few days. When I got home, I spent a little time in the barracks, a few weeks before I found us a nice apartment. I know a second smack for moving in too quickly, but when you're in the military, there are some financial benefits to moving out of the barracks, and I weighed the financial benefits against the get to have explosive relations every night with a hot gal before making any decision. It really wasn't a difficult decision. Yeah, well, smack anyway. Dude, I get she's hot. I get you want to get out of the barracks. Fair enough. And I get that she was hot and great SCX, and you hadn't seen her in a long time. But the only reason moving with a girl is you, A, have been with them a very long time to really know what they're like, and you don't know her. You were dating a few months. The honeymoon period, of course everything's wonderful, the honeymoon period. Then you're shipped off for a year. Then you come back, and shortly after moving in with her, you barely got to get to know her again. This is crazy. And watch this, gentlemen. Watch what begins to take place, which backs up my views on this subject, when he moves in with her. Within a week of us moving in together, things changed slightly. Imagine that. Why would that be? Everything should be so wonderful and happy. Well, you communicated to her through your actions, I really like this girl. I like her so much that I barely know her. I'm moving in with her. So then she can think, I got it made. This guy really likes me. I don't have to try as hard anymore. I don't have to put on the show as much anymore because he rushed in this quickly. Hey. The upbeat, no-drama woman I had to come to know became stressed out over small things. So you left the toilet seat up, right? You left the toilet seat up and she freaked the fuck out. Just admit it. She did a lot of sweet little things for me, but she also would lose her temper quickly. Yeah, I'm sure that was really fun to live with, huh? You spent a year abroad where anytime your number could have been up. You come back home stateside, and now you're living with a chick that's freaking out because you left the goddamn toilet seat up, or forgot to put the cap on the toothpaste, or some ridiculous you move the pillow on the couch. That type of thing. Any of you guys who live with your girlfriends or wives know what I'm talking about here? The stupid shit. That's what you come back to? I'm sure the barracks started sounding a lot nice after that. She also started drinking more often, though she didn't do anything like girls' nights with her friends without me. Well, that big drinking all the time is a big problem. Things slowly progressed as I exited the military to start my new career in IT and taking my martial arts stuff more seriously. I've been a very good wrestler in high school and had a lot of boxing and judo experience, so I started fighting. Between training and my job, I was out of the house a lot, but man, I was in great shape, on my grind, and working on my purpose. Good for you, man. Good for you for going after what you wanted. Lisa never really took my training seriously and never understood why I did it or what it did for me. Well, that's because she has a vagina, and a woman is not going to understand these types of things that guys are drawn to. The same way that we don't have a vagina and we're not going to get shoes and purses and handbags and hair and fucking watching shows like The Bachelor. It is what it is. She didn't make fun of me or anything about it. She just didn't understand fighting or what I put into it. Again, because she has a vagina. She definitely didn't understand what I'm capable of, probably because I was always very gentle when I was with her. As you should have been. Because of my training schedule, I found myself tired and beat up pretty often, and thus wasn't as in the mood for bedroom activity as I normally was, particularly if I was getting ready for a fight. Which is when I first heard the words that would be used a lot on me in the coming months. And he quotes her saying, "If you don't give it to me, I'll find someone who will." Check, please. Get out. Now, in fairness, if a guy isn't getting any, if a guy's living with his girl and she's, putting him up, she's on strike, if you will, there's no hooking up on going, he has a right, in my opinion, to end the relationship. So if she's not getting any, I can't entirely fault her for that. However, the way she's going about it here is an issue. At that point, then, you break up. Her needs aren't being met, or his needs aren't being met, you break up. Because obviously his purpose and his grind becoming MMA fighter is more important than her. Instead, drama. This was the first glaring red flag in the relationship, though there were a couple more smaller ones, like the increased drinking. Well, that's a very big one. But it was still 2007, so a lot of the RP content hadn't come out at this point, and I wasn't as RP'd as I am right now. Also, yes, I get another smack for not telling her to get the F out right then and there. But it also got me laid a lot because at the time I was like, ain't no one else going to do you. Get over here. So I guess she got what she wanted, and I can't say looking back that I was unhappy about giving it. Well, at least she got some hot ass back then. As time went on, she would say other crappy things to me that then eventually that I'll call the cops and tell them you hit me after an argument. All right, that's definitely grounds to kick her out. One of those is going to make shit up. You got to be kidding me. Which wasn't cool by me and is a huge part of what ended the relationship after 3 years in mid-2008. That along with the fact that I caught her smoking weed in the house with a female friend of hers, which was a total deal breaker for me. Remember who your girl hangs out with, guys. I don't mess around with any drugs, period. I walked away, even though she later tried to apologize and blame it on the alcohol and being high. She's a grown-ass adult. I don't want to hear her blaming the alcohol for her doing drugs or blaming the drugs for her doing more drugs. No. She's a grown-ass adult, and she's making bad decisions, and she has to take accountability for her bad decisions. And you are walking away, which you have a right to do. I told her I couldn't risk my future being with someone who would threaten me like that, and that being drunk or high was not an excuse for her behavior, and I ended it. She actually took the breakup reasonably well, and we parted amicably. So you thought. At the time, I was surprised by her taking it so well, though looking back, I think I knew why. That is what brings us to the interesting part of my story. We had a dog, and both of us loved the dog. So even after we broke up and she kept the dog, I would take care of the dog sometimes and sometimes visit. While I would not call us friends, we'd remain cool with each other after the breakup, and we were able to communicate, though I always made sure someone was with me when I was around her, usually one of my boys. Well, that says a lot about her if you always had to have somebody there to verify that she didn't make up a bunch of shit about you. What's it say about her? Eventually, she got a new boyfriend, and I started seeing someone too. So things seemed okay for both of us. This is now mid-2009. It goes on. I completely missed signs of her increasingly erratic behavior simply because I didn't follow her on social media. Not following her was a mistake because if I had, I would have seen who her new boyfriend was. Even though I occasionally watched the dog and we still talked from time to time, I never met him and never knew his name. One day she asked if I wanted to take care of the dog for the weekend since she was going to be out of the town with her new boyfriend to go skiing. I agreed, as the young lady I was seeing liked the dog too, and we were happy to take care of her together. However, the whole thing was a setup. After our relationship ended, and probably before it did, she started getting into harder drugs and the culture of the people who do drugs. It's usually how it goes. It was likely one of the reasons why she changed so much during the latter part of the relationship, and her behavior and self-control deteriorated. She asked me to pick up the dog at an odd hour, so I didn't have anyone with me when I went over. Huge mistake, and I have gone back in 3 times to smack the heck out of myself, so you don't need to. Again, the fact that you always had to have somebody come with you says everything about her. But if something seemed off, which clearly was, that'll tell you everything. But in this instant, he didn't trust his gut, and watch what happens. She invited me in, and when I got in, her new boyfriend was there along with 2 of his friends. As soon as she shut the door, she locked it, and they immediately attempt to threaten and intimidate me with a weapon. So let me see if I have this straight. Your girlfriend, your druggy ex-girlfriend who hangs out with other scumbag druggy guys, that's the best way I can describe them, are threatening you, a combat veteran who had multiple tours, who no doubt did what he had to do, if you catch my drift, and a MMA fighter who fights daily to achieve his goals. They're going to attack you, and even if they have a weapon. Now, let's be realistic here. 3 dudes attacking 1 guy, no matter how tough he is, he's going to get banged up. And depending on the weapon, could get stabbed multiple times, but even then, if you're trained to keep going no matter what, it's not going to end well, especially if they're not trained guys. Now, if they have obviously a gun, that's a whole different ballgame. But if it's a sharp object, yeah, you're likely to get cut up. But if you're that good and they're just a couple drug addicts, they're going down. It says here, so after I got done with them, remember the MMA fighter veteran thing, and called the cops, it turned out that the boyfriend had a warrant out for his arrest dealing drugs. Shocker. The look on her face as I fed her boyfriend his teeth was pretty satisfying. I could have gotten in some trouble because I did lay a terrible beating on the boyfriend, but the cops only seemed to care about the warrant. As for the 2 friends, they were complete wimps and really weren't worth my time. So you had the trash-talking boyfriend and his 2 pussy-ass friends, and you beat the living shit out of them, and you're knocking her boyfriend's teeth out. I'm sure you look back and puts a smile on your face every time. In the weeks that followed, I discovered a number of things about my ex and her drug-dealing boyfriend. One of the things was that they were going to try to shake me down for money, and she was now prostituting herself for drug money. Remember, this is the girl that you were quick to move in with and get a relationship with? This is why you take a long time to get to know somebody and who their friends are, who they hang, because she was obviously hanging out with her scumbag friend who did drugs and was moving into this lifestyle when you were still with her. You pay attention to who their friends are. After thinking about it a while, I figured that was why she was okay with our breakup. It could allow her to live the wild and drug-fueled life she wanted to live. It would have made it more difficult for her to live that life, so she's probably pretty happy that I was gone. I cut her out of my life at that point, though she did try to contact me several times afterwards. They always come back. By 2011, I met the woman who would eventually become my wife and who I'm still with today. And yet still, every 6 months or so, Lisa tried to contact me. Again, they always come back. She just wanted to hopefully prey on your kindness and try to get some money out of you or get you to feel bad for her or something. Not happening. I'd already blocked her old numbers, but she'd always call or text from a different one, and every once in a while would show up at my door. I talked to her that time simply because I was amazed at the level of guts it would take to show up at my house after she watched me brutally dismantle her drug-dealing boyfriend. Still, I told her if she kept trying to contact me, I was going to call the cops and get a restraining order against her. I think that was 2014. I haven't heard from her since. Well, let's hear what's been happening to her for the last 9 years. However, I've heard about her. In 2019, she was arrested for being involved in a dog fighting ring and illegal puppy mill. What a fucking piece of shit. She'd been in and out of jail ever since and been sporadically posting pictures on social media. Friends informed me of all this and forwarded me her pictures. When I was with her, she was beautiful and sexy, full of life. Now she looks like shoe leather, lost and completely defeated by life. Aw, poor baby. She's emaciated and wrinkled up. Despite being so thin, everything on her sags. It is nasty. She also had a kid out of wedlock, shocker, to a man who abandoned her, shocker. And she lost the kid to foster care because she's unable to provide for the child. That actually makes me sad because no child deserves to have such crappy parents. Yeah, I feel bad for the kid. I just hope the kid gets adopted. Nice family. And that kid lives in a state where the state doesn't have rules where the adopted family has to be in contact with the kid's mom. You know, that type of bullshit drives me crazy. You want to get these kids away from their shitty fucking parents, but some of these states, like Massachusetts, has that law, because I know somebody adopted a kid out of state, and they gotta send pictures and all this bullshit. It's ridiculous. This kid should not have any contact with her at all. There won't be any updates after this unless I hear from Lisa, which is extremely unlikely. I dodged a bullet. You certainly did. Oh, I also did run into one of the friends of the boyfriends who tried to threaten me a few years ago. Apparently he went to jail for a while and got beat up pretty bad. Well, I'm sure other things happened to him as well. After he got out, he turned up at the gym I was training at then to learn how to fight. That was a fun encounter. Yes, I'm sure it was. I'm sure he saw you and ran out of there like the freaking Roadrunner. But anyway, guys, that'll be an entertaining story there. And again, to show you, you do not rush into relationships. You take your time to get to know your girl, who she really is, before you become exclusive. If you're in the military, wait until you're out to get in these serious relationships. Now, he claims, according to his PI friend, that she wasn't cheating or anything while he was apart, but I still just don't buy it, given how she behaves later on. Obviously, the PI may miss some things. I just don't buy it. And of course, rushing, moving with your girl, the type of bullshit that happens once you give her too much certainty, how you got to pay attention to her friends, etc., etc. Take your time, there's no rush. But at the end of the day, when there's smoke, there's fire. Get out. Break up with her, move on. And of course, they always come back. That'd be a good one to share. But his life is going really well, which is awesome. And her life is complete dog shit. And you know what? It is nobody's fault but her own. Do not get roped in to get involved in people's lives that just do nothing to help themselves and are just a constant downward spiral. It's not your problem. And there are people out there that have bleeding hearts, and they learn the hard way, you know. And I'm sure it's very tough when it's a loved one, a family member, but and everybody has at least one experience where they try to help somebody out, and it's just nothing they do, and it's just never-ending bullshit. But some people have to go through decades and bad experiences to learn these things, but I'm just telling you right now. When it comes to people that are drug addicts and alcoholics and all that, it's a lot. And trust me, this is something I understand from experience, because I got someone in the family like this. Anyway, guys, that'd be a good story to share. Appreciate you sending this in, brother. Hope you're doing well. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, if you got a great story to share, just email me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Give me some time to get to it, and I will when I get the chance. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.